Welcome to the chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 237 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff, and you can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL, and I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. It is Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Mark, how are you doing this morning?
I am doing well. It's been a crazy time in my life recently, the last couple of weeks. A lot of travel, a lot of vacation, a lot of work. So I'm happy to get back at it. And it feels like we're starting to get back into football mode a little bit. Obviously, still, I think in the dead of summer a bit here in terms of the news cycle of the football world. But if you're a fantasy nerd out there, if you're maybe a gambling nerd out there, some win totals. I've seen some win total talk on Twitter this week for NFL and college. And then, obviously fantasy football. I always say, like, the moment August kicks off is the moment fantasy draft season kicks off. So I've got a couple weeks to prepare for that, 3 weeks to prepare for that. And another way to prepare for the gambling side of things is some of these exercises we do. I always say that the expansion exercise is always my favorite because it gets me starting to think about the cores of some of these teams, and you kind of compare it to what we did last year and year over year. These teams, how much did they improve? How much did they get worse? This isn't necessarily one of those that helps kind of hammer home which teams are going to be good this year. But I do think it's interesting to kind of talk about the new emerging faces of the NFL. And some of these guys are going to kind of become faces of their units or teams or whatever the case may be hopefully for their teams the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I made my return to fantasy football last year. I got roped in last minute to filling out a spot in a league with a bunch of people at my church, and I relied heavily on Mark's fantasy advice throughout the process. And it just reminded me how much I dislike fantasy football. But my son was into it, and he liked watching the players, and so now he wants me to put together a fantasy league for him and a bunch of his little buddies. And so I think we're going to have to do that this year. So I personally am not partaking. However, I'm probably going to be having to follow it even more closely to try to make sure my son does well this year. So, I'm just going to be stuck in this cycle forever, I think. So I'm going to be coming to you again, Mark.
Awesome. Last year, I got jealous. It's something that's emerging for fantasy. Shane might not even know about this, and I'm sure some people listening don't either. Guillotine fantasy leagues. Some people call them Survivor fantasy leagues. Also, seems to be a hot new thing. And I'm going to do it for the first time this year. I'm going to put together a league, hopefully, and in a couple of weeks, maybe kind of reach out online about people who want to jump in. A couple of people I know in the fantasy industry maybe can hop in. But a guillotine league is everybody has. There's I forget exactly how many teams they do. If it's 16 or 17 for all the weeks, but they do 16 or 17 teams. You draft your team normal, and every week the team with the lowest score is eliminated from the league, and all of those players go to the free agency pool. And you have a budget on how you are able to pick. You have a certain amount of money, let's say $100 for the year, that you have a budget that you're able to use on these free agents that get dropped every week from whoever that team that loses is. And I've never played it before, and I'm pumped about it. I'm excited to try a new version. My buddy played in a high stakes one last year and said it was like the most fun he's ever had playing fantasy. So I'm looking forward to it. That's a little tease. Maybe we'll have to do a guillotine episode or something.
Yeah, I'm personally looking forward to the drama when some 12-year-old makes a ridiculous trade with a 10-year-old in this league that I'm apparently going to put together, and I have to either be like, okay, fine, or I have to decline it and then deal with the fallout. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm a pretty staunch. I'm a rare trade denier. A trade has to be really corrupt for me to step in. I'll most of the time I'm a live and let live fantasy commissioner. There's times you have to step in, especially with kids.
That approach probably makes more sense with adults than it does with preteens. But yeah, so that's just a peek behind the curtain of what I'm getting myself into this year. what the things we do for our children. But I digress. Let's get into our exercise this morning, Mark. It's been a long time since we've recorded. My schedule's been a little ridiculous. There hasn't been much going on in the NFL, but Mark badgered me on Discord and is like, hey, what happened to the pod? So I was like, all right, let's do one. And so we are doing, again, I don't just say this about everything we do in the off season, but this is another one of my favorite episodes that we do. This is our under 20, actually, in the past, it's been our under 25 team draft. And I'm realizing as I said it right here that is what we've done in the past. This year, it's 25 and under team draft. And that becomes important because in the past, we've said you have to be under 25 years on the NFL kickoff game, which is September 9th this year. When I messaged Mark the rundown, I said 25 or under. And so Mark prepped a list of players using previous rules that are under 25. I included the 25-year-olds, and then we were 15 minutes late starting the pod because we were having to hammer out the rules. So we are doing 25 and under on opening night, which is September 9th. And next year we may bump that back to 24 because it does kind of make the pool a little loaded as we looked at it. But we're going to draft 22 rounds against each other to see who can put together the best team. We'll snake draft it. We are allowed one rookie pick on each side of the ball. If you want it, you don't have to make it. And in some cases, you might not because, again, this talent pool is pretty loaded. But it's an interesting way to talk about some of the up-and-coming faces of the league and also just the strategy of how you would build a team if this opportunity presented itself. So I always enjoy this episode. Personally, I think I always beat Mark in this episode, so we'll see if that's how it plays out today. So, Mark, shall we spin to see who gets the first pick here?
Yes, Shane is especially in the driver's seat here with me having to real quick search for the 25-year-olds that I didn't include here.
Yes.
I think it was a strategy, but we'll digress.
Hey, I can pull up the Discord message. I definitely said the wrong thing in the message, so. Yeah, so those of you that are listening on an audio platform, on the video platform, I'll have on the screen our teams and we'll fill it in as we go. We'll do our best to talk about them in a way that you can track along if you're just listening on a podcasting app while you're driving or working or whatever. We'll try to keep you up to date with who has picked whom as well. So I'm going to go ahead and spin for the number one overall pick here, courtesy of wheelofnames.com. And it looks like Mark is going to have the first pick here, which is actually what I wanted because, Mark, before we went on the air, you said something to the effect of you were going to have a weird first pick if you got number one overall. So I'm anxious to see who that is. So I'll turn the floor over here to you.
I had something in mind originally when I was under 24 about a position that I thought was a little more scarce than some of the other ones. But with the change, I'm going to go with a position that I think is still scarce. And I'm going to go with a guy who, I think there's a good amount of players who are definitely more proven or definitely better, at least have been more consistent in their short careers than this guy. And the Eagles might not want to pay him yet. But give me defensive tackle Jalen Carter. You look at the rest of the defensive tackle group, and I definitely knew that I wanted to make sure I get this guy because I think a lot of the other guys, you're looking at a guy who's either maybe a run stuffer that doesn't offer a lot of the pass rush, maybe a pass rusher that doesn't offer a lot of the run stuff. I kind of wanted Jalen Carter to be my jack of all trades there and to kind of head up my defense. But there's better players on the board. It's just that I feel like I can still do really well at those positions, such as maybe corner, such as maybe wide receiver, maybe even running back, quarterback. I think there's a couple positions out there with maybe more big name stars, but in terms of the positional value, I'm going to go with Jalen Carter here.
Yeah, there is a bit of looking at the gap between your guy and the next guy on the list here, not necessarily taking the best player overall, which comes into play in a 2-person draft in a way it wouldn't with a 10-person draft or something like that, perhaps. So Jalen Carter is a good pick there. I had that flagged as one of my top priority picks as well. He wouldn't have been my number one overall, but he would have been very high up there. And so you get a little bit of a bump too, because this podcast is primarily listened to by Eagles fans, and you just took an Eagles player at number 1 overall, which will definitely give you a bump in the fan perception here. So, okay, so that puts me on the clock for 2 picks in a row here, which basically everything will be 2 picks in a row from this point on. And I'm going to go with a guy who would have been my number 1 overall pick. And I think this is one of the best players in football right now. And give me Will Anderson.
Yeah, that's the right pick.
Yeah, I'm going to put Will Anderson out there at edge rusher. And I mean, I saw a discussion on Twitter the other day about, somebody was saying that Myles Garrett is clearly like the best pass rusher in the NFL, but that the gap between him and Will Anderson isn't as big as most people think. And I think Will Anderson is a phenomenal football player. And, there was a lot of talk about Anderson when the Texans made the trade ups to take him and Stroud back to back. And you can still debate the value of that, especially with the uncertainty about what Stroud is going to be as he's tailed off over the last couple of years. But Will Anderson, there's no doubt there, worth whatever it took to get him. And just a cornerstone for the Texans, one of the best young players in the league. So I'll take Anderson at number 1, or at number 2, I guess. And then with my second pick, I'm already at a strategy impasse here. And I think I'm just going to, so I hesitate to lock you out of a position so early, because it allows you to just wait on edge forever. But I think there is a clear other edge that's really good, and then there's a vast gap. And so I'm just going to do it. Give me Jared Verse to be my other edge rusher here. And I really like Jared Verse. I wanted to make sure I got at least one of those guys, but there's not really another edge rusher under 25 that I feel super confident in to be an impactful player. So I don't love locking you out of edge here, but I'm going to go ahead and take Jared Verse. And so Will Anderson, Jared Verse is going to be my pass rushing duo.
Will Anderson was the guy who I was debating with Carter. Anderson's probably the correct pick. And
if you took Anderson, I would have taken Carter.
Yeah. So I think those are the correct first 2 picks. I wouldn't have taken Verse for a couple rounds though, I think, but it is the right pick. He was the second highest ranked edge on my board for sure. I think I feel maybe a little better about maybe some of the potential available edges, but now I get to wait on that a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the problem with doing that.
Let me go ahead and I'll take a guy who everybody knows I love, and we'll go to safety, and we'll take Kyle Hamilton. We'll lock him in. I think he's one of the best players in football. It's the last year we'll have a chance to take him in this draft. I think I've ended up with him high almost every year. But feels like you tie your secondary together with him. He's such a jack of all trades guy. And then you obviously have Jalen Carter on the D line. I like the start on defense. Let's go ahead and take, you know what? I'll do it just because it's positional. I'll take Brock Bowers. I'll lock in my tight end. I'll take Bowers, can block and catch with maybe the next best guy. I think you're looking at mainly a receiver. So with Bowers, you have a little bit more flexibility there and using him. So I'll go with Bowers.
All right. Yeah,
not what I thought I'd do. I didn't think I'd take Bowers that early, to be honest. But once I got into it, why not?
Yeah, that's not what I thought that you would do either. Interesting. Okay. So obviously, I mean, the love for Kyle Hamilton on this podcast is very high. We both love Hamilton. Great football player. He's a guy that I would have liked to have ended up on my team. I don't know if he ever will at this point. Well, I know he never will because this is his last year.
Last one.
So unfortunately, no Brock Bowers ever for me again. There is a guy that I thought you were going to take that I almost took over Jared Verse, and he is still on the board. And so I'm going to go ahead and take him. I'll take Penei Sewell.
Okay.
To be my offensive tackle. I think there are some good offensive tackles, but none of them are on the tier of Penei Sewell. at this point. So I'll take Sewell. And then as I look at the board and try to figure out where to go next, I think there's two guys I would like to take here. And let me see. I'm going to go. I think I need to do this one because after him, there's just not much, and I can't let you get them both. So I'll go to my defensive line again and give me Byron Murphy.
Okay.
Has 7 sacks last year. Really good interior player for that Seattle Seahawks defense. And again, there's some options at defensive tackle once you get past Carter and Murphy, but there's really nobody left that can both rush the passer and stop the run. And so Byron Murphy, we'll just stack. We're building through the trenches.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick. Byron Murphy's a guy I've liked since his draft and really lived up to it this year, had his breakout.
That's a classic example of a positional scarcity pick, not a should be the 7th player taken in this draft pick.
Yeah, and to know what, I'm going to go ahead and kind of answer your Sewell pick with Joe Alt. I felt like I had to get one of those, so my thought was kind of just going to be once you took Penei, I was going to take Alt.
I did think about double dipping there, but I didn't want to lock you out of 2 positions this early.
I think that double dip would have scared me more than the verse double dip. I would have been like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do at O-line. I would have had the Jets tackles, I think. But
you don't want to be taking players from the Jets.
Do I just go with kind of maybe the best player on the board here? Do I continue to look at positional value? This is where it gets tough. This is tough stuff. I'm going to go. I'll take a guy who I think might be one of the best players on the board. And he's had an off season that. Now, you know what? This is so tough. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do what I was going to do, actually. Go ahead and go to corner. And I'm going to lock him in. I know he might be playing some safety this year. Lock in a slot corner for Cooper DeJean. I don't know if he's the best corner on the board. I think there's other guys on the board, but he's the best slot corner on the board, best nickel corner on the board. And I feel good about finding 2 other corners to play the outside. There's a lot of options. This is not really a positional scarcity pick, but I do think he's the best in the league at his position.
All right. I that is earlier than I expected Cooper DeJean to go. So, but if you factor into it like the slot aspect of it, I mean, Trent McDuffie is still out there. He's playing more outside now, but slot's such an important position, and he is the best in the league at it, in my opinion. So, okay, that.
Or wait, I guess I haven't. Or I'm. Wait,
yeah. You went Alt DeJean.
Oh, so you're up. Yeah.
So
I didn't know if I had 2 picks. Yeah.
I'm up with 2 picks now. I have not yet taken a non-lineman, and I see no reason to abandon this plan. So I'm going to go offensive line again, and I'm going to go to the interior where I think there is one guy that is head and shoulders above anybody else in the league. Give me Tyler Smith at offensive guard from the Cowboys. Tyler Smith, he was a pick for the Cowboys that when they made the pick, it was like, what are they doing? Like, it didn't make any sense. And they drafted him as a tackle. He turned out to be an incredible guard. You're on mute, Mark, if you were trying to chime in there. But he's become one of the best interior players in the league. And there's a lack of good interior players available on this list, I think. And so I'll lock Tyler Smith in here. I think there's a pretty big gap there. What were you trying to say?
I was that was actually a time where the Cowboys made a pick everyone hated, and I was like, I think he's pretty good. I liked Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. He was a guy I thought he had more of a chance to be a tackle if I remember correctly at the time. But again, it's one of those things you like to say, like if you play a guy you draft that might be a tackle or a guard at guard and he's really good, you're never going to want to move him. And if he's really bad, you're never going to want to try him at tackle. They got the good version of that. They got he's really, really good at guard. Let's not mess anything up version of it. So
yeah, they got the good outcome. We overdrafted a guard instead of the bad outcome. We drafted a bad tackle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I can't remember exactly. I'd have to try to look it up exactly where we all had him ranked. Maybe I'll try to do that while you're back on the clock. But For my next pick, I think I am finally going to not take a lineman. And I'm going to take a guy who you and I both loved coming out in the draft. And it was a little bit of a slower, not a slow start. There was never any doubt he was good. But when Sam Darnold came to town, he just became one of the best players in the league, which is a wild thing to have your success tied to Sam Darnold of all people. Maybe it's a testament to the quarterback play that he has dealt with, but give me Jackson Smith and Jigma to be my wide receiver here. Love JSN, the breakout year last year, just incredible football player. And I couldn't be happier for a guy that, again, you and I both loved, even a full year before he came out in the draft.
Yeah. He's been a guy of mine for a very long time, a huge JSN guy. Now he's now going, by the way, 5th in fantasy drafts overall. Like he's a top 5 pick in fantasy drafts, which you would have told me when I was preaching the gospel about JSN as a draft prospect that he would be a guy drafted as a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy, top 5 pick overall in fantasy. Even I would have been like, man, that's an upside that even I don't know if he has. And I was saying I think he could be a star. Yeah, he is truly one of the best receivers in football. I do think there's one better on the board. I think there's one better receiver on the board, and that's where I was going to go last time. I'm going to take Puka Nacua. I thought I was going to take Puka Nacua last round, and then because Puka and JSN were both still there, I was like, you know what, I'll take DeJean, and that way I'll get one of them on the comeback. I didn't think you'd double up there. If you didn't take JSN there, I would have doubled up. I would have went Puka JSN and just been like, you know what, I get the top 2 receivers. We'll figure out the rest later. But we split the guys there. So you made both picks, right? So I have 2 picks here.
I did. I did find, by the way, Tyler Smith. I had him at number 40 overall. Actually, you and I both had him at 40 overall in that draft.
I thought I had him higher than that.
I'm still searching for my scouting report. I really need to organize this folder better. Because like some stuff is in a BG and draft folder. Some stuff is in like just 2022 scouting reports. It's a total mess trying to find anything in here. I think, 2022 is the year I don't have the reports for. I just have my overall. So I can't tell you what I thought of him as a tackle versus a guard. I can't remember.
That's funny. It might be one of those cases where I felt like I had him at 40 and I was kind of high on him at 40 because I felt like people had like ranking him in the 2nd and 3rd round late. And then when they picked him in the 1st round, I was like, whoa, a little higher than I expected, but I like the guy. I see the vision. I don't know. I remember people really did kill them for that pick, though. That was a pick they got. Even, I would say, killed more than the Mazi Smith pick, which I think both of us thought was much more absurd at the time that they made the Mazi Smith pick. That was an absurd.
Yeah.
Do I go a little off the board?
I remember making fun of them a lot for the Mazi Smith, Luke Schoonmaker back-to-back picks in that draft.
We were all over him that year. That we definitely gave them a lot of crap for that year. Man, this is tough. This is really tough. I thought about a rookie. Think I should probably leave that kind of option available. I'm going to go ahead, and this is another guy, maybe positional value is fueling me. I've always been a little bit higher on this guy, I think, than a lot of people are. And I'm going to go ahead and take Edgerrin Cooper from Green Bay. He's a guy, 2024 in his rookie year, he graded out as like the best linebacker in the sport. Last year, he was just very good. He wasn't elite the way he was the year before, but still really, really good player. And he's a guy who I think will continue to get better for Green Bay. Green Bay's really interesting this year. I'm pretty. We haven't really talked, I don't think, about this, but I'm pretty low on Green Bay this year. I think I could see like if you were making me. We've talked about iceberg teams before. Where it's like, you know what the issues are and you see it ahead of you. You're in the Titanic, you see ahead of you and you can't really do anything about it. And you just have to hope that you avoid it this time and that these issues don't cost you your season. Green Bay feels to me like they could be the team that kind of spirals and LaFleur gets fired in week 16 or 15. And we're like, how did this happen? They were supposed to be really good. You look at the roster, and outside of, it's funny, they have a top 3 on defense that I think is really strong. Micah Parsons, Edgerrin Cooper, and then Xavier McKinney.
But who knows what shape Micah Parsons is going to be in
he might
this
not
year.
play
That's a
until
real concern.
November. Who knows? He's not going to play until October. It might not be till November. We don't know. But he's probably going to miss the first month or 6 weeks, whatever the case may be there. But yeah, like you said, that's another issue for Green Bay. We don't even know if Parsons is going to be out. Let's say Parsons was playing week 4 as early as possible. I still think there's, outside of those 3 guys, you look up and down that Packers roster, not a ton of blue chip talent on that roster.
Yeah.
I think I froze there.
No, you're good. I get you.
Oh, okay.
So I was looking back. By the way, new segment we need to have on our weekly shows during the season this year that I'm shamelessly stealing from a Heed the Call mailbag. But we need to cancel a team every season. And we used to do that a little bit, but this year we should track it. And we cancel one team each season. And if we hit it perfectly, we will have all that will be left the last week of the season is the playoff teams. So
I also heard that mailbag, and I thought that guy was. It was funny though. The guy was like, "I've been doing this podcast for 10 years."
And didn't mention the podcast
guy
name.
every week, and he's suggesting the idea to Heed the Call. It's like, guy, that's your podcast. What are you going to do with your podcast now?
Yeah. Maybe he's angling for a guest segment, but
yeah. Good play.
But yeah, when that instantly brought to my, like, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. We didn't do it last year, but I would, in my final thoughts, I would always cancel a team. And so this year I want to do that. We're going to cancel a team after every week. We'll work on it together. It'll be a cooperative thing that we'll do live on the air, not necessarily talk about before. And if we do it correctly, after week 18, we will have canceled every non-playoff team. So that's going to be tough. Going to be tough.
Where it gets tough is you don't always want to just say, the 0-3 Raiders are going to miss the playoffs, right? Like sometimes you want to have some spice. You want to throw out a take. And that's where it gets tough, I think. Week 13, maybe we're looking around. It's like, do I just say the 5-8 Jets aren't going to make the playoffs or whoever it is? Or do I say the 7-7 Buccaneers are actually screwed? There's no way they make it. I don't know.
See, I think that's where it's good to discuss it on air because we can put those takes out there, but it's a hard enough challenge. We got to take the slam dunks when we got them.
Yeah.
So before I go to my picks, I did find my tweet that Cowboys fans really hated from that draft in 2023. I tweeted out, here's a couple fun facts about the Cowboys draft. Number 1, first round pick Mazi Smith averaged 0.16 sacks per game and 0.2 tackles for loss per game in college. 2, second round pick tight end Luke Schoonmaker has 1 season of over 175 receiving yards and is only 6 weeks younger than Jalen Hurts. And for some reason, Cowboys fans are really grumpy about those tweets. I also tweeted out that I had a third round grade on Mazi Smith, but I digress. We don't have to make fun of the Cowboys in the offseason. We'll have plenty of time to do that in the regular season.
I did not have him in my top 100, which is a rare, I don't know how, it's probably only happened 2 or 3 times where a team has taken someone in the first round who I do not have in my top 100.
Yeah.
Ty Simpson happened again this year.
Yeah. Okay. I'm back on the board here for 2 picks. I strayed away from linemen, and it didn't feel good. And so I'm going to go back to the trenches here, and I'm going to take Zach Frazier to be my center. Zach Frazier had the breakout rookie season, follows it up in year 2. It wasn't as great of a year, but still a really good player. And there's a lot of issues at center when you're talking about taking guys under 25 or 25 and under. So not the most important position, but I do think there's a gap there. So I'm going to take Zach Frazier and fill out a little more of my interior. And then I am going to go back to weapons here. And I'm going to take my wide receiver too. I do kind of regret not double dipping and stealing Puka from you so I could have JSN and Puka. But give me George Pickens. George Pickens is a guy who again, I loved in the draft. That was the same year they got Pickens and Joey Porter Jr. later, right? I think same draft.
Yeah. Yes.
I remember having Joey Porter Jr. as a top 10 grade.
I think it was flipped. I think Porter was a second and was Pickens a third or a late second.
Yeah, Pickens was late. I had a late first on Pickens, and he fell into day 2. I had a top 10 grade on Porter, and he fell to the top of the second. So I loved that draft. I think both of those players have panned out, but Pickens obviously a head case. He's obviously no longer in Pittsburgh, but he finally got to play with a good quarterback last year in Dak Prescott and responded with 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns. I don't know what his career path's going to look like, given the fact he's in Dallas, where Jerry doesn't pay people, and that's not going to sit well with Pickens. And the fact he just seems to be a head case, but he's a tremendously talented player, and I don't have to deal with his personality in this exercise. So give me George Pickens.
Yeah, I thought about taking Pickens next. That probably would have been my next pick. Would have been a funny Puka Pickens combo there in terms of personalities out in my wide receiver room.
Yeah, you're going to be on permanent. You're going to have to hire Mike Tomlin if that's your receiver room.
Have to hire big dog. I'm going to go with the no tackle. I'll round out my tackles here, and I'll lock you out. I'll take Armand Membu, my number 1 O lineman last year, who stepped into, I think, a pretty rough offense, pretty bad situation, pretty bad play caller. I think overall, pretty rough situation for an O lineman to step into, or any young player to step into on that offense, and he thrived. Armand Membu looks like kind of a bookend tackle for a long time, so I'm fine locking him in. And that's where it gets a little tougher.
Yeah, this is where the including the 25-year-old starts to get a little tough, because there's a lot of stacked positions out here I'm just putting off because it's like I don't know that I have that strong of an opinion between some of these guys.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right here at corner. But I'll do it anyway. I'll take Quinyon. Throw Quinyon on there. I'll lock down the Eagles market, even though there are a couple more incredible corners available. Yeah, I'll lock down Quinyon. We know they work well together, Quinyon and Cooper. So outside, inside, just got to figure out an outside corner now later.
Yeah, this is shameless pandering by Mark, taking all of the Eagles.
I will say, I took DeJean and Carter too early. I do think Quinyon probably went too late here, but like I said, there's, I'll just say Sauce and Stingling are still out there. So there's still, and a couple other names, Witherspoon, a couple other guys. So Gonzalez, there's a lot of corners.
Yeah, I was pretty dedicated to just not taking corners for a while because there's just so many. Like, there's legitimately 7. We're drafting 3, and there's 7 guys that I was like, there's like just a hair separating these 7 guys. So I
only had 7. I'm curious to hear who, or I only had 6. I'm curious to hear who your 7th is. If I'm missing a guy,
you're definitely missing somebody if you didn't have 7. We'll see who it is when we get there. We'll see who it is. I think I know who it is because I haven't heard you mention this one person yet, prompting me to check his age, which I'm going to do now. And yeah, he's good. So
is it Kamari Lassiter that I forgot? No. Okay.
No, I didn't even have him down.
Nah, yeah, he would have been like the next guy after my big 6 that I had. But yeah, I guess I'm missing a guy. That's 2 picks. For some reason, I make the 2 picks, and then I feel like I only made 1 every time. But yeah, I made 2.
Okay. So I'm up. I'm really fine with either option at quarterback.
Me too.
I could I don't need to take tight end because you've already got yours.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to take tackle because you've already got yours. So I could go guard. I could go D tackle. I don't love any of these. I'll tell you what, I'm going to get a linebacker here. Give me Carson Schlesinger.
Okay. That's not where I thought you were going to go.
Feels weird to have 2 Cleveland Browns on this team, but
to be honest, you're catering to the Browns fans.
Yeah. Well, one of them has not played a snap for the Browns yet, so that just makes me feel like he's a better player. But Carson Schlesinger, obviously, he's a tackle machine last year. Or was he a rookie last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm
pretty sure he won.
For some reason,
the award, but yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, I started to say that, and then I was like, wait, was that 2 years ago? Anyways, tackle machine in the middle of the Browns defense. Tackles aren't everything, but they mean a lot when you're talking specifically about a linebacker. And so it's, again, not a place that there's a lot of good 25 and under talent, at least a lot of confirmed good 25 and under talent. I'm sure Mark will take Jihad Campbell later to further pander to Eagles fans, but I'll take Carson Schlesinger there. And then, you know what? I think
there, by the way, there is, if you wanted to get crazy on the Cleveland Browns, that D tackle spot could go to a Cleveland Brown also.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if I can stand having 3 Cleveland Browns
right in a row,
list,
too, on top of each other on the list.
Yeah, maybe we do it for the memes later, but I'm gonna go back to offensive guard because there are 2 guards that I like, and I don't want to. There's not really a third one I like, and I don't want to give you the opportunity to double dip and lock me out here. So give me Peter Skoronski to be my other guard. Another one of the you took a tackle and played him at guard type guys, except that was probably always going to be his spot in the NFL. But I'll take Skoronski here, and I'll kick it back over to you.
I'll pull the pin, and I'll go to quarterback. I'll take Drake May.
Okay.
I would have been happy with Caleb. I would have been happy with Jaden. I spent a lot of the early part of last year and the off season reminding people and telling people, let's not act like the Jaden Daniels versus Drake May thing is over. There was a lot of talk after the Commanders went to the NFC Championship that, Jaden's the guy out of that draft that you want. Obviously, Caleb had a rough rookie year. Drake May had an encouraging rookie year, but just not, it wasn't obviously the same degree as Jaden Daniels. And then Drake May comes out and they go 13-4. He puts up near MVP numbers. And because the playoffs didn't go as well as you could hope, even though they made the Super Bowl, because the playoffs maybe were a little bit of a mess on offense for New England, it almost feels like Drake May's being slept on a bit in terms of where people are talking about young quarterbacks in general, and then even fantasy, if you wanted to get into that. I don't really even see the argument that he's not QB2 for fantasy. But you look at some lists, they prefer Lamar, they prefer Burrow, they prefer a couple of these other options for fantasy QB. I think Drake May, you look at the numbers Drake May put up last year, he's adding A.J. Brown to that offense. I don't really see a scenario where May is worse statistically than he was last year. And obviously, there is some schedule regression, I think, coming for the Patriots. I think they probably will win 9 or 10 games. I don't think they're going to be a 12-13 win team again. But I think even if that happens, I don't think it's going to be because Drake May played a lot worse and they didn't have good quarterback play anymore. I think if anything, you look at some of the stuff that happened to their schedule last year, it actually is more about the fact that their defense was allowed to overperform by playing really bad offensive talent and really bad quarterback play. I think if you made me guess, I think that defense probably regresses big time this year. And if anything, that'll probably just help Drake May's numbers and it'll make him throw even more. And now he's got A.J. Brown out there. So Drake May, a guy who I feel like somehow getting disrespected after a breakout season in some circles.
Yeah, I mean, you and I both talked about last offseason that we still thought Drake May was probably going to be the best quarterback out of that class. And so I think if I had a vote, he would have been my MVP vote last year based on the regular season. I would have voted for him over Stafford. Love Stafford, think he had an incredible season. You can believe what you want to believe about Drake May. You can easily look at point to his playoff performance and say, see, he was only good in the regular season because they played a weak schedule. But you can also look at his regular season and say, he overperformed with no weapons. I mean, Stephon Diggs, who is still a free agent, by the way, was his leading receiver. And then he had Kayshon Boutte, Mac Hollins.
He's not getting first team reps now on that team.
and Mac Hollins and Demario Douglas were his receivers. And you can look at, sure, he only completes 58% of his passes in the playoffs, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, but one of those games was against Denver in an actual blizzard, and so he completes 47% of his passes in that game. If you throw that game out, which you can't do, but you throw that game out, throws for 268 yards and a touchdown with a pick against the Chargers, throws for 3 touchdowns against a Texans defense. I mean, he literally played the top 3 defenses in the league in a row: Houston, Denver, Seattle. And obviously Seattle gets the better of him. It's not a good game for him, but we talk all the time about guys making their first playoff starts and, their first run in the playoffs and how it's so hard to win in those circumstances. So I'm still a big Drake May guy. I would be lying if I said it doesn't raise some concerns to see how he played in the playoffs. But I think we also got to remember, this is a guy in his second year making his first playoff appearance. Meanwhile, there's guys like Dak Prescott who are continually ranked as a top 8 quarterback in the league that routinely perform that way in the playoffs. And so I'm not ready to Justin Herbert. Yeah. A guy that I love. And I love, close your ears, Eagles fans, mute me for a second. And Dak Prescott's a guy that I love, a guy that I love to watch. I was a Dak defender for a lot of years. And eventually I'm just going to believe who you continually tell me you are in the playoffs. I'm not quite there with Justin Herbert yet. I probably will be if Herbert has another disaster class in the playoffs this year. But I'm not out on Drake May, I think. And obviously, they get A.J. Brown, which we don't need to litigate the A.J. Brown thing. I think there's a chance A.J. Brown is just cooked. But I think it's a gamble worth taking for the Patriots. So
even if AJ's cooked, I don't think he's as cooked as like Diggs was last year. So I think no matter what, it's an improvement. And even outside of that, Romeo Doubs, who they gave, I think, like $80 million to be the number 2 receiver there. So you're adding 2 receivers. I'm not the biggest Doubs guy, to be honest, but I think he's a better receiver than anyone they had on the roster besides maybe Diggs last year. So I do think that'll be a helpful add for them. Now, I almost forgot I had to make a second pick.
Wait, didn't you take Quinyon?
No, I took. I think I started it with May. Yeah, I think we have the same amount right now.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so you're up.
Yeah, one more.
That's good because I haven't yet thought about who I was going to take. So
I'm deciding between guard, linebacker, corner, and safety, and just keep going back and forth. Where is my defensive rookie going to be? Basically, is the issue. I'll go boring, and I'll finish out my guard. Or actually, no, I'm not going to take a guard. You have that locked up. I'll go ahead and I will take. I'll do it. I'll mess it. Whatever. I'll take Tet McMillan. Give me Tet McMillan at wide receiver. I love Tet long term. I think another guy who stepped into a situation that should not have been a situation that was easy for a rookie to thrive in. Bryce Young has a lot of flaws. That Carolina offense is pretty flawed in general. And Tet stepped in and showed I'm a top 15 receiver day one. And showed how dumb some of that kind of conversation about him during draft season was. And he was a guy I loved in the draft, thought that New England should have taken him in the first round instead of Will Campbell. Now you could say, I actually was talking, this is a really dumb argument that nobody's having in 2026, but I was talking about this recently that I still think Carolina, or I still think New England should have taken Tet instead of Will Campbell, even though they went to the Super Bowl. We obviously know how Will Campbell's postseason went. And I'd say I'm more concerned about Will Campbell's postseason than I am Drake May's postseason. The argument that someone threw at me when I was talking about this was, well, New England was kind of able to fix wide receiver this year. They were able to go get A.J. Brown. They were able to go get Romeo Doubs. They never would have been able to do that at offensive tackle, where you needed to take that O-lineman, and now you're able to go the receiver route. I don't know if that's fair, though. You could have taken
they didn't just sign him in free agency. They spent a first-round pick on him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could have moved up in the draft this year for a tackle. Like Ahina Shore went 20, you picked 31. Like there could have been routes that you could have taken to, and you gave up capital for AJ Brown anyway. You gave up a first round pick in 2028. So it's like you could have probably given up a third and something else to move up from 31 to get a tackle, or Blake Miller, wherever I guess he went 18, but I'd have to look at where the tackles went exactly. But Caleb Lomu wait, they took Caleb Lomu, right?
They took Lomu at 28. They moved up for him.
They drafted a tackle. So yeah, I don't know. I still think they'd be better off going forward if they would have went the Tet McMillan route, New England, last year, because I think he's a stud, and Carolina is set up nicely there.
Yeah, I mean they if you think about if they take Tet McMillan last year, they don't have to give up that future first for AJ Brown. How high could you get with a future first round pick, especially in this draft where nobody wanted to move up? I mean, can you get up to 9 and take Spencer Fano? Can you get up to 10 and take Francis Malinoa or, Caden Proctor? There's a lot of guys that they probably could have moved up for, and they would have a receiver that's for sure good, and still have a dice roll on an offensive tackle. So, considerations there for them. Generally, I think taking the offensive lineman is the right move, but Campbell kind of turned out a little bit disastrously for them, I feel like.
Yeah, and I thought Tet was a rare chance to kind of lock in May and Tet as kind of your quarterback receiver combo for the next 10 years.
Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
When maintaining your daily wellness rituals is important to you, the change in routine during the summer can feel daunting. Kachava's new travel packs help you stick to your daily ritual, even when you're on the go. Just one packet of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake provides complete nutrition with 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, adaptogens, and much more. So you'll be fueled and ready for wherever life or your summer adventures take you. No fillers, no nonsense. Just the good stuff your body craves. Plus, it actually tastes delicious. But you can try it for yourself because the variety pack includes all 6 delicious fan favorites: chocolate, vanilla, chai, matcha, coconut acai, and strawberry. So instead of worrying about sticking to your daily ritual, simplify it with Kachava. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS for 15% off. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
If you build things online, you know the stack can get messy fast. Docs in one place, project tracking somewhere else. AI tools scattered everywhere. That's why I've been spending more time in Notion lately. It's become the one workspace where I can actually organize ideas, collaborate with people, and now build on top of it too. Notion just launched their new developer platform, and it opens up a ton of possibilities for builders, startups, and teams. You can create integrations, connect workflows, build AI-powered experiences, and customize Notion in ways that fit how you actually work. What I like is that it doesn't feel overly technical or locked behind enterprise complexity. I was recently experimenting with automating some recurring workflow tasks, and it was surprisingly easy to get something functional up and running without rebuilding my entire system from scratch. That's the sweet spot. Whether you're building internal tools, AI agents, automations, or entirely new products, the Notion Developer Platform gives you a flexible foundation to work from. Learn more about Notion's developer platform today at notion.com/amp. That's all lowercase letters, notion.com/amp, A-M-P, to try Notion's developer platform today. Notion.com/amp.
Yeah, and I think it would have helped May a lot, but I guess May got helped plenty last year. Had a great year.
Yeah. So All right, so that brings me up on the clock, and I guess I'm going to do it, Mark. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to finish up my defensive tackle room with Mason Graham. Give me 3 Cleveland Browns in the middle of my defense. You know, this is a bit of a function of defensive tackle being really rough in this particular draft, and I don't love the rookies. I mean, am I going to go Caleb Banks here? I didn't like the Caleb Banks pick really. So Mason Graham, you know, he finishes the year last year 20th in pass rush win rate. I'm sure playing next to Myles Garrett helps him out there some, but overall it's a weaker position, and he's a solid player, and I'm not sure there's a lot of that left. So give me Mason Graham. And then I don't know if this counts as pandering given the circumstances, but it's the best fit I've got here. I'm going to go back to linebacker and give me Nakobe Dean. So maybe that counts.
He's under 25?
He is.
I did not think that. That's crazy.
Well, now let me double check because of your reaction here.
He's 25. No, that's shocking. It's just he came out young. Yeah, he's been.
He's 20. He doesn't turn 26 until December. So I will take Nakobe Dean. Obviously, the Eagles draft Jihad Campbell because they're concerned about Dean coming off an injury. If they knew how Dean would come back, I believe there is no chance they would have taken Jihad Campbell last year.
Yeah, I agree.
They did, and that's not a knock on Campbell, the player, but Dean was so good when he came back from injury last year. And now he gets his payday, he cashes in and goes to the Vegas Raiders. And so I'll take Nakobe Dean. That fills out my front 7. Or front 6, I guess it is, in nickel. So I'll kick it back over to you.
This is tough. This is tough stuff we're doing right here. It's like running back. I don't even know which one you prefer. So it's like if I take one, it could be stupid because the other one you could so easily argue for either. You know, I don't care. I'll do it. I'll take Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is better than Bijan. I think he's more impactful. I know that Bijan gets almost. I think last year he might have even had more receptions. I'd have to look at the efficiency on those receptions for both guys, but I think Gibbs is more of a take over the game kind of guy. Maybe you could argue that Bijan is a little bit more of a workhorse, or has at least been used as a bit more of a workhorse. But I think Jahmyr Gibbs is maybe the most electric player in the sport. And I don't know if we've really seen Jahmyr Gibbs be unlocked yet. There's some stats out there when Montgomery got hurt last year about what Gibbs was able to do when he was the only running back out there. And it's pretty stunning stuff, how good he was and how efficient he was, both catching the ball and running the ball. But yeah, like Bijan Robinson, 287, 304 carries the last 2 years, where Jahmyr has 243 and 250. Yeah, Bijan had 79 catches while Gibbs had 77. And I get that. But watching these guys, I would be, if I was a defensive coordinator kind of preparing for these guys, I would be more worried up at night about Jahmyr Gibbs than Bijan Robinson. I know that Bijan Robinson is amazing, so I'm not even trying to take anything away from Bijan. But I think Gibbs is going to win Offensive Player of the Year this year. I think he's going to have an unbelievable season. He'd be my number 1 pick for fantasy this year over Bijan, which is a hot button kind of topic. Jamar Chase kind of involved in that too. But Jahmyr Gibbs, would you have went Bijan?
Yeah, I probably would have.
Yeah, I think I'm probably in the minority there.
Yeah, Bijan has 200 more receiving yards last year, 200 more rushing yards. And it's not just a volume thing. He had more yards per carry than Gibbs. He had more yards per reception than Gibbs. Now, Gibbs has more touchdowns than he does. So I think you can make a really good argument either way. But I would have slightly leaned Bijan. I don't think there's a wrong pick at that spot, though, honestly. They're both great football players, but I would slightly lean Bijan. That's who I'll take here in a few minutes.
And then I guess I have another pick here, huh?
You do.
I'm looking up some percentages here just to get an idea of something. I don't think it's worth it. I'll do it, whatever. I'll go big slot. We can kind of switch him and Puka back and forth there. I'll take Drake London. Drake London plays some big slot. He can also play outside. Tet's like locked in outside, and we can switch kind of London and Puka around back and forth. So feel good about Puka, Tet, and Drake.
All right. Yep. That leaves us with the only spots we still have in common being cornerback and safety.
DB.
Yep. So I will take. I'm gonna take.
There's a pick out there that I'm surprised you haven't made.
Yeah,
I know you hate rookies.
Yeah, it's not that I hate rookies. It's that there's so many good safeties, and I can't. I've debated because I had 4 safeties written down that I liked.
I have a good amount of safeties I like too.
But I'm gonna do it. I think I can. If I take a corner, I can't. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to double dip at safety here.
Okay.
First one, give me Brian Branch.
Okay.
I'll take Brian Branch as one of my safeties, and then I'm going to use my rookie pick and get Caleb Downs.
Yeah.
Caleb Downs was in that Kyle Hamilton tier of evaluations for me. Obviously, there's just the medical concerns and some of those things that caused him to fall. For this draft, I guess I just don't really care about that. So give me Caleb Downs. I really debated that one. Like, he's a spot that I had rookie kind of earmarked for, but then you still got some guys at safety that are good football players. You've got Kirby Joseph. You've got Nick Emanwari. Would have been fine with those guys. There was a spot I thought I might use a rookie pick on defense that I didn't end up doing it, so it kind of frees it up here. So I'll take Caleb Downs and Brian Branch.
Yeah, that also locks in that my linebacker will be a rookie. I've been kind of tossing and turning about which Ohio State rookie to use on defense, so you took that out of my hands.
Yeah, that's where had you taken Nakobe Dean, I would have taken Sonny Styles as a rookie on defense.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think I'm going to take a rookie on offense.
Yeah, there might be one. I have an idea for one potentially, which you could probably figure out by looking. I'll just be honest. I'm very split between Sauce and Stingley right now. I'll take Stingley. Sauce got hurt, right? Am I wrong?
Yes, he did. Yeah, they traded for him and he got hurt.
Yeah. So I'll take Stingley. That's not really a huge factor, I'd say, but yeah, I'll take.
All right.
Yeah.
And at this point, we have no common positions left, so we don't have to think about that as much anymore.
So this is what happened. People thought he tore his Achilles, Sauce, but it wasn't. It was like a calf strain. I remember that now. That rings a bell.
All right, who's your next pick?
Wait, did I just make 2, or did I make 1?
No, you just.
I only made
Stingley.
1. So wait, we don't share anything now.
We do not.
All right. If we don't share anything, then I'll just go ahead and lock in my other safety. Throw up the X. Give me Xavier Watts. Double Notre Dame. Safety room.
Wow, that is not what I expected.
He was so good last year, and not enough people are talking about it because it was the Falcons, but he had 5 interceptions, 62 tackles, graded out as one of the best safeties in the sport. Now, I could have went Nick Emanwari.
Yeah.
I understand that. Nick Emanwari is such a specific player, and Kyle Hamilton does a lot of jack-of-all-trades stuff already. So I kind of wanted to go with the center fielder with Xavier Watts, and he can just kind of be back there as my big play bandit, just taking possessions away. So I know that's probably not the consensus top 4 safety.
Kirby Joseph too, by the way, 20 interceptions.
His injury issues are I think he just can't stay healthy. Kirby, sadly, I love Kirby Joseph. You know I love Kirby Joseph, but I actually think just to be fully honest about it, I think Xavier Watts is kind of he's basically Kirby Joseph, but I think probably a better tackler and a better not just the big play stuff. And I'm not, to be honest, I'm not as plugged in on Kirby Joseph or the Lions as I was on Notre Dame. I do think Watts is more of that kind of emotional leader of a defense in a different way than Kirby Joseph is, whereas Kirby Joseph's value is just taking the ball away to me. And Watts does that as well as almost anybody with 5 picks. So the name that I felt bad about was Emanwari, but he's like I said, I don't think Hamilton and Manbury makes a ton of sense as your safety room.
Yeah. All right. So that was 2 picks for you. Okay. So I'm back up. I'll fill out my offensive line now. Give me Darnell Wright as my other offensive tackle. Really had a good year last year for Chicago. Ranked 4th in pass block win rate among offensive tackles. Just really good player. That's a player I was really wrong about in the draft. I'm pretty certain I remember being quite a bit lower than him. And I can't remember. I think maybe there was some pre-draft stuff going on with him at the time. I can't really remember for sure, but I remember thinking the Bears might have missed on that pick, and Darnell Wright's turned out to be a really good player for them. So,
but it took him a bit, right?
It did, yeah. He was a little bit of a slow start. Really, really took off last year. And then I will lock in one of my favorite players that I have stood on a table for in the draft process. I was so thankful when the Washington Commanders selected Emmanuel Forbes with this guy on the board. It is Christian Gonzalez. I think he is one of the best corners in the league.
He is.
I think he's a top 3 corner in the league. And so I'll take Gonzalez here and kick it back over to you.
It's an interesting conversation. Most of the corners are in this. Like, most of the top corners are in this, I've said this many times.
It's a young man's game.
A young man's position. A corner is not a position you want to be paying free agents. It's a position you want to be drafting studs. I've said that for a very long time, and I feel that way still. Obviously, the best one is older. Patrick Surtain. Not older. I don't even know how old Surtain is. Probably like 28, 27. But he's the best corner in the league. I think after that, there's like a glut of, I think you really could make arguments for any of Stingley, Gonzalez, Sauce, Quignon, Witherspoon, kind of ranking that any way you want to rank it. I mean, DeJean's a little different because he's a slot guy, but you made both picks?
Yes.
Okay. I'll go ahead and I guess I'll finish. I'll wrap it up in reverse order. Actually, I'll go to guard. Let me lock in my rookie at guard. Give me Vega Ioane. And
yeah, that's the spot I considered. That's really the only spot I considered a rookie on offense if the offensive guards didn't go my way.
Yeah, he's really the only one that I was considering also. At first, when I didn't have the 25-year-olds in, I was looking at tackle a little bit. But once I was looking at Maui Noah mainly. And then once I added the tackle, once you added Panay and another guy, it got a little fuller. And then I'll go Tanner Bortolini at center, who actually graded out as one of the best safeties or best centers in football last year for the Colts. So let's lock in Tanner Bortolini, who the Colts just they churn out stud interior O linemen. That's what they do. Quentin Nelson, Tanner Bortolini. There's been other guys, obviously. So good for the Colts.
Yeah, that is the correct pick there at the position. I like Bortolini. Bortolini would have been the guy that I took had you taken Frazier.
By the way, I didn't have Frazier on initially. I didn't really have a second center to put on my list. I had Graham Barton written down, who I don't think's been that good really for Tampa, but he plays center.
There is a guard I would have taken before Vega, but he would have been my number 4 if I didn't get 2 of my top 3. So I'm interested.
I have
to see.
one more guard that I probably should go above Vega, but I want to.
Yeah, I'm interested to see who you take there. So, all right, I'll go ahead and fill out my defense here with the double dip at cornerback. The first guy I'll take is Trent McDuffie. Love McDuffie. Loved him in the draft. I was one of the guys that said I thought he could play outside cornerback. And also at the same time, because this was before everybody was on the slot corners are majorly important train. And so he got devalued, pushed down the board some. I think I had a top 10 grade on him and just said that I think he can play outside, but also I don't think it matters if he can't, because I think slot corner is going to become a very important position. And it's funny that both of those things came true. Slot corner became massively important, and at the same time he moved outside and still played really well. So I'll take Trent McDuffie, and then I will take the guy that I think you forgot about, because I'm not taking Sauce Gardner for my
Really?
last corner. I'm going to take Devon Witherspoon.
No, I said Witherspoon.
Did you?
I said Witherspoon. McDuffie was the guy I was missing, by the way.
Okay.
McDuffie.
I knew you were missing somebody, because as I was stacking these corners, like Sauce became the number 7 guy, which is insane. Like that guy just went for so many first round picks, and I would take the 6 guys that we picked over him.
I would go Sauce over McDuffie. Sauce Witherspoon's really hard to me. That's a really hard. With the injury, I guess I'll say Witherspoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, you could jumble those corner rankings up anyway, because I really do think that they're all in that same tier. My other guard, I'm going Tyler Booker.
Yep, that's the guy.
Yeah, he's rock solid. Pick I didn't love. Not an athletic guard.
Frankly, still don't love the pick, but he is a solid player for what he is, and he's by far the best guard available left in this exercise.
Yeah. And then at edge, I'll go Abdul Carter and lock in a blue chipper from last year. He was pretty good first year, maybe not spectacular, but definitely really good.
All right. For me, we've discussed this already, so I'll just go ahead and put him in here, but there's no mystery in either of these picks. So give me Caleb Williams at quarterback and give me Bijan Robinson as my running back.
Was Jaden Daniels even in consideration?
No.
Yeah. I think I'll ask a question. I think you agree with me that going forward, you would put that May, Caleb, Jaden.
Yes.
Is there a bigger gap between May and Caleb or Caleb and Jaden?
Caleb and Jaden.
I agree.
But, and it's not to discount anything that Jaden did his rookie year, he's just following the career path that I feared for him. He was better his rookie year than I thought he would be, and the injuries came and were more severe than I thought they might be. But if you go back and listen to our coverage that draft, I said he's extremely athletic. He's going to make an immediate impact with his legs. He's got a beautiful deep ball. And at a certain point, I'm afraid the hits will catch up with him and the deep ball won't be enough on its own. And we saw him dominate just like in the same manner I thought he would as a rookie. I didn't think it would happen that immediately, and certainly not in Washington. And then we saw the injuries mount, but we also saw him fall off a bit in that second year, injuries aside. And so we'll see what happens with him year 3. I'm still really hopeful for him as a player. I do think his game, which, what second-year quarterback's game doesn't need to adapt as they continue to acclimate to the NFL. So in no way is it a shot at Jaden Daniels, but I view him as a pretty big injury risk whose game needs to evolve significantly more than May and Williams, who I do not view as injury risks right now.
We have someone in my neighborhood's car alarms going off. Hope that's not very loud for people. But do you just want to finish out your picks while hopefully this car alarm goes off?
Yes. Except I'm pretty sure I know what I need to do at tight end. But tight end is tough.
Actually, the car alarm went off, so I can take it back.
Okay, take it.
You can have
Take it and give me a second.
But at D tackle, I'll lock in T'Vondre Sweat. I don't know if that's the right pick, to be honest. You could tell me, pick T'Vondre Sweat, pick Deone Walker, take the swing on Caleb Banks as a rookie. Those are the 3 paths that I looked at. I'll take T'Vondre Sweat. I do like T'Vondre Sweat. I thought that was a really good trade for the Jets, actually. It was Jermaine Johnson, I believe, was who they moved for T'Vondre Sweat. So I like that move for them. And then you can take Membu's logo there, yeah. And then at edge, I will go. It's basically, here's what I've been wrestling with. Do I want to put Arvell Reese at edge and draft a different linebacker? Or do I want to... I'll draft Laiatu Latu. Give me Laiatu Latu at edge, and I'll be fine with that.
All right, so Laiatu Latu at edge. All right. So I will go with my receiver. By the way, I did not obviously I typed it. And I didn't have Tavondre Sweat on the board at defensive tackle. I probably would have looked at Gervin Dexter there. That's kind of the guy that I had as my number 4.
I have a Bears fan friend who was, when we were talking about the protections, he was pretty low on Gervon when we talked about Gervon Dexter and being like, he's really kind of plateaued a little bit. But interesting. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I from the outside looking in, I like Gervon Dexter also, but that's definitely colored my opinion on him the last month or so.
Interesting. Yeah. And then edge rusher, let's see. I would have considered Latu, Nolan Smith, George Karlaftis. Not a guy that I love there.
What's Jalix Hunt's 8? I could have went Jalix Hunt.
Is he in the right age?
25. I don't know when he turns. March 13th, 2001. Yeah, I could have went Jalix. I didn't think about him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, wide receiver, I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. Had a really good year last year, ranked really high in ESPN's receiver metrics for last year's season. Actually, his overall was 5th on the ESPN analytics scores. So Puka was 1, Diggs was 2, JSN 3, Pickens 4, Flowers 5. And so I end up with the number 3, 4, 5 off of my list. And I actually didn't even look at this list when I started doing it. I was just frantically trying to search for which receivers. Actually, I was trying to search for which tight end I should take because I'm between 2 guys here.
Yeah, there's 2 guys. It's really tough. I didn't know. That's kind of part of why I took Bowers, because I was like, I don't even know which one I would take.
Yeah. The 2 guys are, let's see if you've got the same 2 guys. It's Colston Loveland and Tucker Kraft.
Oh, I did not have Tucker Kraft, who I love, actually. I didn't even think, for whatever reason, I had Tyler Warren written down.
Yeah, you could go Tyler Warren. In a lot of ways, this actually becomes an easier exercise if we were drafting 12 personnel, because all of those guys should probably be drafted. Yeah. But given the fact that Tucker Kraft is coming off of the injury, I think I'm going to go Colston Loveland here to round out my team.
I think it's the right pick. There's some metrics out there on Loveland that are pretty nuts that suggest he could really become one of the best pass-catching tight ends of all time, just from year 1, obviously. And he didn't even play a lot early, I think. I think he ran a lot of routes later. I will say, I have to stick my hand up and say this. I'm a hater. I think that Zay Flowers year was a bit of a fluke. I thought a lot of it was Mark Andrews disappearing and they didn't have a lot of options, and he kind of just had to be the focus of the offense. And I think Lamar props up receivers and tight ends. It's weird. You wouldn't think of Lamar as this guy who does, like, he props guys up above what they are, but I think he might do it better than anybody in the league. Because I've long been a guy who thinks Mark Andrews isn't that good. Like, I think you could plug like a lot of guys into the Mark Andrews role of the last 10 years, and they would have done basically the same thing Mark Andrews did. But I will say, there's not a 6th receiver that I'm like, oh, you didn't take this guy. So, like, I'm not a big Zay Flowers guy, but, like, Malik Neighbors has a lot of issues with his leg. Carnell Tate's a rookie. Emeka Egbuka really struggled down the stretch after a really hot start. So it's not like Ladd McConkey had a tough year. So there's not like a receiver that I'd say you're silly for taking Zay Flowers over. But I do have to say, I think Zay Flowers is overrated. I've always
I would have considered Jordan Addison, Ladd McConkey, Malik Neighbors, but the injury stuff's really concerning. Jameson Williams is another guy I thought of.
I love Jameson.
I actually had Jameson Williams ranked a spot ahead of Zay Flowers, and I pivoted at the last second. And so maybe I shouldn't have done that, but
I thought about taking Neighbors over London, and I was like, I just don't. He's so hurt.
I wish you had, because I would have loved to have had London.
London's awesome. And then I'll take Arvell Reese. We're not going to do the Sonny Styles thing. We're taking Arvell Reese. We're putting him at linebacker. We're going to use him at edge and stuff sometimes. Whatever.
That sounds like the Giants' plan. Congratulations. You just made a decision the New York Giants would have made.
Here's the difference. I have players that have value in the NFL outside of the front 7 or outside of the front 4. I actually have other players on my roster, so I don't feel as bad being like, you know what? I only spend assets on edge rushers.
You know what? I think you can spin it however you want, but anytime you make a decision that the New York Giants would have made, you should be very concerned.
I have 2 Giants. It's not great.
Yeah. So I have no Giants. Took
2
a couple
Giants
of
and 2
Cowboys.
Jets.
Yeah. So rough draft there for Mark. I mean, I think it's pretty clear I won again, but there you have it, folks. Our 25 and under team draft. I'll run down our list of names here for you. On Team Shane's offense, we have Caleb Williams at quarterback, Bijan Robinson at running back, a wide receiver trio of Jackson Smith and Jigba, George Pickens and Zay Flowers. Colston Loveland is our tight end. And then offensive line, Penei Sewell, Tyler Smith, Zach Frazier, Peter Skoronski, and Darnell Wright. Team Mark's offense is headed by Drake May at quarterback. Jahmyr Gibbs is the running back. Wide receiver trio of Puka Nacua, Tet McMillan, and Drake London, with Brock Bowers at tight end. His offensive line is Joe Alt, Vanga Ioane, Tanner Bordolini, Tyler Booker, and Armand Mimbu. And then on the defense, back to Team Shane, we have a defensive line of Will Anderson, Byron Murphy, Mason Graham, and Jared Verse. Linebackers Carson Swessinger and Nakobe Dean, with a defensive backfield of Christian Gonzalez, Trent McDuffie, Devon Witherspoon, Brian Branch, and Caleb Downs. Meanwhile, Team Mark has a defensive line of Abdul Carter, Jalen Carter, Tavondre Sweat, and Leatu Latu, with linebackers Edgerrin Cooper and Arvell Reese. And his defensive backfield is Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Derek Stingley, Kyle Hamilton, and Xavier Watts. These are 2 loaded football teams. Yeah, so next year we'll do 20 under 25 instead of 25 and under. So this will be the last year for 2 years worth of guys here. The current 25-year-olds and the current 24-year-olds will fall off this list next year. But there you have it. Mark, what do you think? What do you think of how your team ended out?
I like it. I like it. A couple weak spots like Tavondre Sweat. Maybe you could argue Xavier Watts. Maybe you could argue Ioane. But no, I think both of our teams are unreal this year.
Yeah. Mine definitely wins in a playoff game, though. So, because Drake May is not my quarterback.
Well, you locked in the Browns. You got the Browns vote.
Yeah, I got to get the Browns, a couple of Browns players. Hey, Jared Verse already has some postseason experience, okay? He's going to bring it to Cleveland.
He was great in that.
Myles Garrett was a cancer. They just needed to get him out of there. He just doesn't know how to win in the postseason.
I feel bad for Jared Verse. I think we talked about that when the trade happened. But man, what a change in your life. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine. So, all right. Well, that is going to about do it for this one. Mark, do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I don't think that I do. I'll just say I already said Jahmyr Gibbs, Offensive Player of the Year. I'm trying to think do I have a fantasy take that fantasy take. I'll do this. I'll do this real quick. Fantasy take. I guess that'll be my last thought every week. I'll do a one take a week. Kenneth Walker. If you are out there and you're doing fantasy drafts, you might be using the Sleeper app. The Sleeper app is one of the more popular fantasy football drafting websites. And I like Sleeper. I think it's a really fun mock draft tool, good draft interface, good draft room. They seem to have 2 or 3 rankings every year that are so far from consensus on the other rankings boards that I just don't understand the logic behind leaving it like that. Right now, this year, that's Kenneth Walker being ranked 13th overall. That's Sleeper telling you should be considering Kenneth Walker at the end of the first round in fantasy football drafts. Kenneth Walker was not a top 25 running back last year in fantasy in Seattle, in a situation that he was also the main guy and also getting most of the carries and was not that efficient with those carries. I don't know why year in, year out, fantasy nerds seem to overrate the Kansas City Chiefs running back situation. For multiple years, we saw Isaiah Pacheco get overdrafted by multiple rounds up to the point where he was a 2nd-round pick one year, and he's not a very talented football player. Kenneth Walker, a lot more talented than Isaiah Pacheco, but he should be going in the late 3rd, early 4th round, certainly not in the beginning of the 2nd round or even at the end of the 1st in some cases. So my number one, not even if there's a fire player of fantasy football in 2026, is Kenneth Walker.
All right. Well, there you have it. Folks, thank you for joining us for episode number 237 of Chalk Talk after our hiatus over the summer. We should be back more regularly now as we build to the upcoming season. But if you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode. Drop us a 5-star rating wherever you stream your podcast. Search for us, Eagles Pin Pull Network. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Shane Half NFL. He is at Mark Henry Jr. NFL, and we will catch you guys next time.